So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome for this second webinar of the series of 3 webinars on promoting private sector engagement in ST activities. So as you know, my name is Rafael, I'm project coordinator for the UN ESCAP on supporting the South-South and Triangular Collaboration Program on STI for Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Vietnam. So now to give the opening remarks, we introduce Mr. Jonathan Wong, Chief of Innovation, Enterprise, and Investment of the United Nations ESCAP. So Jonathan, over to you.
Thank you very much, Raphael. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. So let me just by saying start with a warm welcome to you all to this webinar on engaging the private sector for human capital development in Cambodia, Lao PDR, Thailand, and Vietnam. I will be brief as we have much more interesting people than me speaking today, who you will hear from. So I'll keep this brief. But just to provide some background, this webinar is organized as part of our initiative on South-South and Triangular Cooperation on Science, Technology, and Innovation, or STI, among Cambodia, Lao PDR, Thailand, and Vietnam. We'll go shorthand CLTV for now. And the objective of this webinar today is really to enhance private sector engagement and share knowledge on how we do that in STI within the CLTV countries. And it's really been designed to bolster the capacity of both policymakers and other stakeholders to craft and implement policies that effectively stimulate private sector engagement in STI human capital development. A key focus of our initiative, of course, on South-South cooperation on this project has been collaboration, particularly between CLTV countries, as collaboration, as we all know, is a key driver for innovation. And with this in mind, collaboration is also the theme of this webinar. And we'll be adding a kind of additional layer of collaboration into this, but by really focusing on how the private sector can collaborate with government and academia to catalyze innovation. And two of the core themes of the webinar today will be corporate engagement and building human resources capacity and talent mobility. So why these two themes? I think first on corporate engagement, as we all know, the private sector has been and is still now the engine of innovation and plays a critical role in developing the human capacities we need, both for innovation, both now and indeed will be in the future as well. And second, on talent mobility, just maybe a personal story. I myself have worked on innovation in the public sector, in the private sector, and in academia. And I found it really, really helpful for a few reasons. I think firstly, kind of just knowing firsthand kind of how these different sectors operate, you know, the different perspectives they have on innovation and really appreciating the differences, but also the aligned objectives that these sectors have. I think it's been, through my career, has been a really useful exercise in thinking about productive and hopefully harmonious collaboration, which it always is between different sectors for a number of reasons. As mentioned, I found this really useful, and we'd like to explore this a bit more today as well. In addition, and just in closing, I just, again, really want to thank you all again for joining us today. I want to say a special thank you to our speakers who have taken their time out of their very busy schedules to share their expertise, insights, and experiences with us here today. We really appreciate you taking the time to do that. And last but not least, a huge thanks to the ESCAP organizing team and indeed ACWAP for moderating the session as well, and for bringing this all together here with us today. So that just leads me to say, again, I hope you all find this session today useful and insightful, and I really look forward to hearing the outcomes of the session today. Thank you, Rafael. I'll hand back to you.
Thank you, Jonathan. And now to introduce our moderator, who's going to be guiding our conversation today, Dr. Apiwaj. So Apiwaj, over to you. If you'd like to introduce more of the presentation, the participants. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rafael. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Apiwaj from Chulalongkorn University. I am acting as the consultant to this project. We've been working quite a bit with different stakeholders in the 4 countries, and I'm very excited today to be your moderator of the panel discussion. Let me first introduce our panelists today. Firstly, we have Dr. Sieng Heng Hao, the Undersecretary of State at the Ministry of Industry, Science, Technology, and Innovation in Cambodia. With his dual experience as a former professor and currently a policymaker in STI, Dr. Hao will tell us about some comprehensive perspective on the academic and policymaking aspects of STI. So welcome, Dr. Hao. Joining us next is Dr. Warajit Setapan from the expert group ASEAN Talent Mobility for Thailand. Her background is in academia, and her role in the Thailand's funding agency, PMUB. This experience has equipped her with a unique viewpoint on STI policies and talent mobility. So thank you very much for your participation today. We are also very delighted to have Dr. Jenny Lin Almaco, the regional coordinator at Eurassess Worldwide. Her expertise in human capital development in Europe provides valuable insights into the talent mobility experiences in the European context. Unfortunately, she has some flight delay, but she has already responded to our questions, so we have her recordings to show later today. Our fourth panelist, Dr. Poonsak Kosiapon, Assistant to the President at the Directorate for Manpower Strategy in Higher Education, Science, Research, and Innovation, or NEXPO, the agency from Thailand. He's with us today. His specialization is in talent mobility, and I hope we can hear from him how different governments, especially Thai governments, have offered ways to encourage the private sector investment in STI capabilities. We are also honored to have Dr. Ahmed Al-Shazli, Director of Sponsored Programs and International Relations at Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development and SECAM from Egypt. He will bring a novel perspective from a private university in Egypt, focusing on holistic policymaking and SECAM's engagement in building STI capabilities through the university. Last but not least, Dr. Panuwat Trangkanuwat, who's the Managing Director of the Corporate Human Resource Division as SCG HR Solutions Company Limited from Thailand. His experience with the leading Thai corporation in building STI capabilities offers insight into the needs of large corporations from government support in the region's STI development. So welcome the six speakers and panelists that we have today. So without further ado, I would like to start first with Dr. Hao. You are at the moment a very high level policy maker in Cambodia, but you've already had a lot of experience working in the academia as well. So I would like to ask you the first question. What are the primary challenges related to engaging the private sector, including both domestic and multinational companies in Cambodia for the development of STI human capital in Cambodia? Dr. Hao, please.
Thank very much, Dr. Piwat, and thanks for the organization of this important seminar on something which is touching my heart. You know, I love development of human capital, and I always convince stakeholders that without proper or without strategic development of human capital of talents, we cannot go far. And I think it's a very nice question that you discuss the challenges to engage private sector. I think this question, it stay with me since I was university researcher. 10 years ago we talked this, and now we talk that, but of course it's persistent always. I think we cannot. Please bear in mind that we cannot find a solution. The context from one to another is always different also. So the current challenges that I would share is, I think one is lack of incentive scheme, meaning private sector might hesitate, especially in developing nation. You know, private sector are hesitating to invest in in human resource developments and R&D. All of these are the challenge. So I think most of model, those developing emerging economy, they are relying on, start first from government on that. And second is unfavorable regulatory framework or climates which restrict, or it's normal. We face that most of developed nation, of course, these are quite favorable, but most of least developing country or developing country trapping in this structural framework, allowing technology, allowing knowledge, allowing skill, to be mobilized is challenging. I think the number 3 is education, poor education quality. We have to bear in mind and keep in mind that quality of education is always the foundation of everything, and this always the challenges, especially for emerging economy. Number 4 is lack of STI, human resources. Overall education, of course, but how many percent on STEM? How many percent on the right sector of STEM? Because when you say STEM is too broad also, which sector of STEM, which subsector of STEM that we prioritize, or we see that it is important, and it is innovation. Innovation means it serves the development of private sector, it serves socio-economic development as all. Number 5 is lack of networking. I think it's always a silo, but even though in a developing or least developing, even developed nation, this remain essential to fight the bottleneck of working in silo. I think UN ESCAP I work with UN ESCAP. UN ESCAP provide this recommendation to how to mobilize STI also is to breaking the silo. Everybody like to work in their own room and do not like to collaborate with others. So fight for this is important. Number 6 is limited infrastructure and resource, especially for R&D. I think infrastructure is remains essential, because if you want to improve talents, if you want to improve human resource, how much knowledge you create in health, how much technology in educational technology, for education technology are we invested to have in a particular nation. These are remain challenges also. I think numbers 7 is lack of awareness of importance of STI for economy. I think even I myself am not in a high level of political decision, but of course, starting as a researcher in university and now working in the political level in the government, we always see that people say that, oh, economic is important. Let move the. How can we move economic without the foundation of human resource in STI, the importance of technology in enterprise? All of this, we talk a lot on the surface of economic itself, but the bottom, the foundation depend inside the economic development is STI. You see, most of developed nations in the world, what they are doing, they are not selling rice, they are not selling vegetable, fish, or all of that. And last one is IP law. When we want to engage with private sector, they are very mindful first on how to have a proper mechanism or law legal framework ensuring that technology, knowledge are created by private sector are well protected. So enforcement of IP law, ensuring the mechanism that is favorable is something that remains challenging. That would be the 8 point that I would like to raise about challenges for engaging private sector. Yeah, thank you very much.
Actually, Dr. Hal, I have a quick question. So I really find it interesting that you mentioned networking. How do you engage the private sector in Cambodia from your perspective? I mean, you worked in the academia, you worked for the private sector, now you are at a senior level of policymaking. how do you see the government engage in building networking with the private sector, at least in Cambodia?
At least in Cambodia, what we have been doing so far, in general, the question is stay with me since 10 years, 20 years back in the university. We always triple helix model, UILO, all of that we always discuss. The principle of how to engage private sector is to stay as close as possible together, academia, private sector, and policymakers. The things what we have been doing so far, especially in our TOR, in our mandate, we try to create sufficient legal framework. Now, from government side, we are doing, we are creating, in the few years, in the past few years, we are doing our best to have a sufficient legal framework, ensuring that private sector are having confidence in investing on STI. These are from government side that I can say. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's great because in our conversation earlier this week about startups, we heard a lot as well from both the private sector and from policymakers about this trust, the confidence and trust between different actors in this ecosystem of STI, and how the trust and the confidence will lead to the proximity, that you say, closeness between different actors. So thank you very much for your answer. So let's next move to Dr. Phanuwat, who's actually from the private sector himself, and with your experience in SCG, one of the largest companies in Thailand. It's very innovative. So we are very glad to be able to have you here today and hear your perspective. In the conversation that our team had with you earlier, a couple of weeks ago, about the direction and the approach of SCG when designing the overall policy of SCG. You mentioned the term high value added of innovation policy. And so could you first explain to us what you mean by this HVAC, the high value added innovation policy, and how SCG has implemented this concept concerning the development of human resources at SCG. Dr. Phanuwat, please.
Thanks a lot. So I think for private sector or for a company like us, I think we should start firstly from, as a company, we need to make the profits, right, so that we can sustain ourselves, we can survive. So based on that, it back many years ago in SCG, I would like to tell some story. So at that time, we are so good at running a good plan. We are strong to be cost leader. So we can produce any product, but with the cheapest cost. That's what we are good at. And then we are strong in the domestic market. So we know we have a lot of channel and reach every province in Thailand. Then lots of number one and number two world player in various industry, if they want to come to Thailand to penetrate Thailand market, they would like to join venture with us. Then we have a lot of joint venture at that time. Many companies happen, and we diversify a lot of business in SCG. And one day we think that what if those number one, number two world player, they go back to their country, how can SCG survive? Then we think that we should have some innovation or some technology that we develop on our own. So that's the starting point. And that we call it high value added products and services. So then from that time, we run our business like a cost leader for many years, 50, 60 years. We develop our employee in that way. And one day you ask people to be innovative, it will be difficult, right? Because people in the plant, they wait for your order, right? Turn left, turn right, push the button, something like that,
Mhm.
because it's a high investment plan, right? And one day you let them like, please raise your hand, please show your idea, please tell us some creative, something like that. So it's hard to be that. Then we need to start to do something. Okay, along the time, even today, we always invest in employee development. We develop the functional capability along the time. But I think it's the mindset. Even people like two people have the same capability, but one people mindset is like just keep maintain the status quo, right? But another one would like to have like innovation, have the mindset of like inventor. So it's different when they implement or when they deliver things. That time then we start to develop people in that way. So how to become like have a researcher mindset. And at that time SCG we have just few researcher, so we start to recruit like PhD researcher first, like 50 people, 100 people, like, to have like critical mass, so that they walk around, they work around, and they lift up our general employee to have those mindset. And then we start to implement like the environment, the culture, or the ecosystem. So we have something we call like inno people. Like you should be like risk taking, you should be like assertiveness, you should be think off the box, kind of that. And we start to roll out those ideas, training, encouraging people, and also invest in something like hard science, like facility. We start to invest more like lab, like tools, research thing for those facilities. Then people start to feel the way to go to be HVA. And we talk about like please inno, kind of like please inno, please be innovative, kind of that. Till like 1 year's part, it become like talk of the town. In every meeting, people start to talk, please be more inno, kind of that. And people start to think it that way. So every corner of SCG, I think they start to think their own product, to think in the innovative way. Even the back office, they can deliver the innovative process, like accounting department. They can like shorten the time with the supplier, with the vendor, with the customer. So both the front and back, they all start to innovate. And that one thing, not just the employee or the executor, the boss as well, right? The leader, we need to innovate them as well, like need to develop them to the way that they won't be like roadblock to the employees. Okay? Because you know, people in SCG, we promote from within. So like me, I work here about 30 years now. So I know a lot. When my subordinate comes to me, sometimes I know even his problem or her problem. Like, no, I can't tell you what your problem. I can tell you answer. Kind of that. We start to train people that please stop. Please slow to respond to your employee, to your subordinate. Let them speak first. Let them talk first, and let them think on their own. But you should be like facilitate leadership.
I see.
And you should be
I have a quick Thank you. I have a quick question though. And you've been with SCG for 30 years. Developing this innovative culture and mindset, how long did it take for SCG?
I'm not sure.
20 years,
but I think
10 years.
I think at least 4 to 5 years. But it's just one day that we feel that it now like routine, like new routine. It's now.
That's actually quite impressive. I was thinking of 10, 15 years, but if 5 years, then it you are giving us some hope, right? That 5 years is not a long time. The fact that you can change or adjust the mindset of people in the accounting department to the leadership within 5 years, I think that's a really great example. I have a few questions, but we'll come back to my questions later on.
Thanks.
Let's move on to the third panelist. Thank you, Dr. Warajit. So Dr. Warajit, you yourself, as a professor, you have done a lot of research, but at the same time, you are also engaged in research funding with PMUB. So the question that I like to ask you is basically how universities can better prepare their researchers to meet both academic standards as well as the practical needs of the businesses. Because now, with PMUB, you're not just preparing, researchers to become, somebody in the ivory tower. You'd like them to be able to respond to the needs of the industry as well. If you could tell us a little bit about how you think governments can do this, please.
All right, so thank you so much for your question. I wear many hats, okay? So at first I was a university lecturer, researcher, and then I moved to PMUB to help out in the funding system. So I'm like looking on the perspective of both sides, both as a researcher and both as the more of a government funding agency. So as far as I see is that the university need to prepare both their lecturers and also their researchers for the future. And the future, it has to be demand-based. And we need to not be in the ivory tower. Our research has to have somebody to use, even though it's basic or frontier research. So basically, the universities, lecturers, researchers have to step out of their comfort zone and meet with the private sectors. And then what I feel is that sometimes it's because like we usually like study all the time and we do theories and do research, but not real practical work. So there are a lot of programs to help the universities researcher to come out, like the mobility program, to the private sectors to see the real issues and using the research to help solve the real problem. Not only like the large private companies, private sectors, many universities have the program for to help SMEs and everything. So those kind of research, it's do or die. You can't stay in your university anymore. If you don't come out, you won't get any funding, you won't get any research result, and so on and so forth. So everyone have to be adaptive and move toward that. Another thing that I see is that the university, like a lot of professors, they have a difficult time communicating, not only with the private sectors and also with the communities and the general public, communicating the importance of their work and how it can help to the public. So with the different language, I say, even though they speak Thai or English, but it's just still like a different language in communications, like science communication. So that's might be another way of how to communicate understandably and how we might work with each other. So not being too intimidating to the others, because I see a lot of time when I talk to the private sectors or the local community, they kind of got intimidated because we're so academic. So we have to come to the same type of understanding. It's not too academic. We're talking the same thing, but just different language. So another thing I want to say is to just create awareness to when communicating and how we can work with each other. And also reaching out to the private sectors or the community to have the research to practical need. There need to be to build a trust between the partnership and stakeholder. That trust doesn't, it's not just project by project. It's not one project and we leave. It's not. The trust is long-term. So the university researcher have to figure out what is their career path. And the career path is toward what industry, and you need to build that trust as long-term and consistent. And that will help to help solve the issues, also raise the career for the researchers as well, and as well as benefit the private sectors like that. So that's what I feel out of it.
I'd like to ask you that those are really interesting issues, right? First about the communication and the language and the trust part. I would like to combine them a little bit, because sometimes, when we don't understand each other, it's so difficult to, build trust, right? And what you're saying, absolutely right. It seems like, you know, the corporate, the private sector has their own culture and the lingos and the languages, as well as, you know, the government have their own culture and the languages. And in order to put them together and build the ecosystem and human resources, you need the common language as well as the you know, eventually the trust. How do you see the role of PMUB as a funding agency in building the language that people would be able to understand, you know, about one another, as well as eventually the trust from there? What's the role of PMUB there?
Okay, so the role of PMUB, we kind of move toward, even though we fund frontier research, so frontier is basically like basic science in new emerging market like that. So the user, sometimes it's hard to see what is the future industry is going to be. So what we do is we use funding as a mechanism, meaning that if you want funding, you need to do first, you had to build a team as a consortium, not just you yourself in one university. You have to build like various universities, and you have to have industry partner or government partner in the proposal to be submitted. So only one institution submission, you won't get any funding. So that's the incentive or the regulations that we set up. So that have to talk to each other. So the second way is that we feel that PMUB is an intermediary, meaning that we bring together stakeholders to create dialogues. So you might see that in PMUB, we hold a lot of workshops, a lot of meetings to bring people together and talk, as PMUB will be like intermediary in there to figure out the needs for each one. The universities has their expertise in this area, that area, private sector need here, they have industry. So we try to make that or form it into a bigger project. And then not only that, like we bring partners or other funding agencies together. So one thing that I realized is that so there has to be a middle person, intermediary, who can communicate and understand different language. So PMUB have the mechanism called Agile Team, meaning that we have like academic partner who are very well versed in talking with the private sector, and also well versed talking to the academic as well. So they're the middle person to kind of like analyze and figure out what is the common ground. So that's the beginning. And then we try to merge, they have like the two sides talk to each other. So it's a long process, and it's hard to find that person to be able to do it all. Yeah. So that's one.
Yeah, really cool, because now we see that, you know, the role of a funding agency is not just to give out money. Money is almost secondary there. The ultimate, you know, the proximate and the ultimate objective of giving out money is to first building the networks, the partnerships, create dialogue, eventually the trust. So thank you very much. We'll come back to this point again in the second round when we talk about talent mobility program. Let me ask Dr. Poonsak from Nexpo. I mean, Nexpo is a policymaking agency in Thailand when it comes to STI and education, higher education. Dr. Poonsak, what do you think are the role of governments can do in giving the incentives to companies to invest in STI human resources? So my question is quite specific there. It's about incentives that government can give to the private sector to be a STI. Do you have any examples in Thailand or beyond that you can share with us, please, Dr. Poonsak?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Dr. Apiwat, for the introduction and question. First of all, if we take a look at the past 10 years, we can see that we have a lot of incentive to providing or helping the private sector to develop the human resource. But for the recent needs for the advanced technology or even for the innovation, as we heard from the SCG, you can see that a lot of the companies really want to improve their culture and acquire some talent coming to the companies. Therefore, the past year we create a new incentive for the private sector. We call the STEM plus incentive. What we do is about when the private sector would like to hire the STEM professional, they can get the benefit of 150% tax deduction for hiring those staff. And another one is for the when they want to train the workforce in terms of STI or in the STEM, STEM. For example, the digital transformation or the industrial 4.0 or whatever that relate to the STEM, they can get the tax benefits at 250%. This is the real example that we have currently. And a lot of things is very important incentive for the ecosystem development, like Dr. Walajit mentioned. Ecosystem is very important for starting the innovation. Of course, the government understand that, and therefore we have some program that helping the private sector to do something like a co-creation program to support the private sector in the like a training modules and early recruitment processes for between the university and the private sector to get the talent into the good environment for the innovation. Another one is the consortium development process is very important as well for the helping the collaboration between the university and private sector. So the government help the consortium like doing the skill survey and doing something like academia forums to support the private sector, or even for the engaging the co-research between university and the private sector. And a lot of things coming for the regulation, not just only the incentive for the tax or the funding. Another one is coming from the regulation relaxation, like the education sandbox that is allowing the university join together with the private sector, develop a new kind of the human resource development together. We have some example like 5 universities working at one study program to support the private sector. And even sometimes we have more than that, but we can see that not a lot of the people, it's very hard to start at the beginning, but anyway, the incentive like this one or the deregulation like a sandbox would help the private sector and the university working together more easily. And from our experience, we can see that the intermediary, like Dr. Walajit mentioned, is really most important for engaging between the private sector and university. Therefore, for the past 10 years, we try to help the university having like a one-stop service or the clearing house that having the staff there to traveling around or contact the private sector and try to get the research problem from the private side, and then come back to search for the talent from the university side. And later on, they help each other to writing the proposal and get the research funding for like PMUB, like this one. And other thing else is like the incentive for the professor. For example, recently, that's the beginning of this year that we successfully developed the new kind of the professorship we call the innovation professorship. Basically, from the we can see that when we want to get the professorship, basically we write the paper, research paper, and do something like academic stuff. But innovation professorship is a little bit different. So if they have the professor can help the private sector or doing some research together and get the higher impact, like a startup, a spin-off, and those impact would be coming back for the benefit of the professor or the faculty in the career as well. See this the summary, the brief about the incentive for the government side.
Thank you very much. I really like what you mentioned about this professorship of innovation. It seems like it's like in the medical school or law school or in business school where they have professors of the practice, people who have experience working in practice, not just in the private sector, but elsewhere, to come back and teach courses and work with the students. It's actually a really great idea to explore even more. You also stress the importance of intermediaries. In addition to what Dr. Warijit mentioned earlier, in our webinar early this week about startups, everybody was stressing the importance of intermediaries, not just funding agencies like PMU, PMUBs, and others, but also startup associations and things like that. So it would be great to hear more a little later about the role of intermediaries there. Let me ask our fourth panelist, actually fifth panelist, Dr. Ahmed from the Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development in Egypt. I have to share with the other panelists and the participants in this webinar a little bit about the background before I ask the question, because and thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed, for joining us from Egypt and for a short notice. I happen to be sitting next to the chairman of the board of the university just a couple of weeks ago, and then we realized that there's a lot of things that we can learn across continents, really, and Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development is really fascinating. If any of you are interested, you can contact Dr. Ahmed directly or go onto the website. Now, Dr. Ahmed, your university is really interesting because it's a private university dedicated to sustainable development, and it started from SECAM, which is now a social enterprise, but it started from agro-industrial companies. It's now one of the most prominent agro-industrial groups of companies in Egypt and the Middle East. So could you tell us a little bit how SECAM, as a private company, now social enterprise, engage in building human resources in STI in Egypt and beyond, particularly the example of Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development? Dr. Ahmed, please.
Dr. Apiwat, thank you very much for the invitation and for giving me this chance to be with you in this South cooperation, which is very important. As you mentioned, SECAM started as the first initiative for sustainable development in the Middle East when Dr. Ibrahim Abu Aish, the founder of SECAM, came from Europe in 1977 back to Egypt to try to start a new community, to build a new community, new sustainable community. And yes, he started with the idea of organic and biodynamic agriculture because he believed that this is the solution for many things in Egypt, problems, I mean. And he believed that he cannot do that without investing, without building the capacity of the people. Good ideas are not enough. So he invested a lot in building the community. I mean, the holistic approach of sustainable development, which based on 4 pillars: the social one, the economic one, the ecological and environmental, and the cultural one. And in 2005, after establishing a series of companies in medical field, in agriculture, of course, and in for instance, for the textiles and more, he believed that he needs, or we need in SECAM, a science and innovation lab in order to have new ideas, in order to develop some models and prototypes to be upscaled and mainstreamed within the Egyptian community. And 2005, We started with the Heliopolis Academy for Science and Technology. And after that, in 2012, we moved to Heliopolis University for Sustainable Development. Now, Heliopolis University for Sustainable Development, after almost 11 years, we have around 3,000 students, 5 faculties: engineering, organic agriculture, business and economics, physiotherapy, and pharmacy, where we are trying to embed the concept of innovation, creativity within the students from different disciplines. For instance, all the students, they are studying a course entitled Innovation and Creativity. Regardless their major, they study it, and this is very important for them. As well as investing in the human capital, we have ESD program, Education for Sustainable Development, for academic staff. We have a training academy for the administrative staff. And on the top of that, in 2017, we developed SACAM vision goals, which are consistent and coherent to the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. And in order to achieve that, we have developed 6 research and community service centers at the university. One of the most important centers we have is the Entrepreneurship Center for Social Impact, where we are incubating and we are hosting green startups from our students, from the community, from the local community, and from outside. And we managed to graduate around 200 startups, green startups, within the last 3 years. And we are taking them from the early beginning, from the early idea to the incubation phase, to access to market, access to finance. And we are giving them all the technical support and sometimes the financial support in order to execute their ideas. Moreover, we are relying at Heliopolis University now on the partnerships and building consortium and applying and getting funds from different funding agencies to support our research and innovation, which I will speak maybe in the second round more on that. But I mean, we are managing now around 32 projects funded from different funds, from EU, from the GIZ, from the USAID, from other funding agencies, in order to embed again and in order to foster the innovation, science and technology in Egypt. I don't want to exceed my time, but maybe we have a second round to elaborate more on that.
Actually, I have a quick question.
Yes.
So how's the relationship between Heliopolis University and SACAM as the sort of mother company? Because the reason why your story is so fascinating is because in Thailand we have for example, the PTT Group, which is a gasoline and energy company, one of the largest companies in Thailand, built a very a university targeted primarily on frontier science. But it seems like in the case of SACAM and Heliopolis University, it's a little bit more related to the commercialization and product development part, right? Not at the level of like super scientific sort of deep science level, or am I misunderstanding that part?
No, you are totally right. Our companies at SACAM, which are more than 20 companies working in pharmaceuticals, organic products, and textiles, and more. It is a win-win situation between the university and the companies. We are helping the companies in the research and development. We have established a program, very interesting program, transdisciplinary experience-based learning fellowship, where the students and the staff, they are doing the research in order to serve the needs of the companies. The companies provided their weak point, their needs, and the students and the staff working on it. And I want to explain this more in the second round. But at the same time, companies are very, very good venue for the students for their learning trip, because, for instance, we have a program called community-based learning, where each student each semester spend around 2 weeks away from the classes, away from the classroom, away from the university, having his own or her own experience from working in the companies, having internship in the company, going to the rural areas and explore what is the problem of the community. And then when he or she came back, trying to elaborate on that with the academic supervisor. So I think there is a close relation between the SECAM holding and Heliopoulos University.
Fascinating, fascinating. Well, we'll come back to other details in the second round. Now, let's move to our last panelist. Jenny, unfortunately, cannot join us live, but she recorded her answer to my question. I basically asked her to provide insights into the EU's Erasmus Plus program, which is basically a program that aims to support capacity building for higher education. And I asked her how this kind of program could help the development of STI capabilities in the CLTV and perhaps the ASEAN region. So here is Jenny's response.
Thank you very much, UNESCAP and Rafael, for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I had hoped I would join you live, but this is where we are. So on the first question, the EU's Erasmus Plus program, particularly its focus on capacity for higher education, plays a pivotal role in enhancing educational quality and fostering international collaboration, especially in regions like Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, for example. And here are some reasons. So, first of all, in promoting internationalization, quality in higher education, Erasmus Plus facilitates partnerships between European universities and institutions in the CLTV region. And these collaborations often leads to the exchange of best practices, innovative teaching methods, and also the development of joint curriculum. And these international exposure certainly helps local institutions to align global standards. The other reason for that is that the program supports, there is a focus of the program on building research capacities as well in various scientific fields. And this is certainly beneficial for the CLTV region, where there is a growing need for advanced research infrastructure and expertise in science, technology, and innovation. Of course, we would like to foster regional cooperation, and the program encourages this regional collaboration in higher education and promoting a shared approach to tackling common challenges as well. And an example of this would be sustainability, public health, digitalization, technological advancement. The other thing, of course, would be the provision of funding and resources. Erasmus Plus is a huge program. There are a lot of actions that are entry points in collaboration between the EU and the CLTV region. And the program offers significant financial support for projects that aim to improve the quality of higher education and build capacity in research and innovation. So, of course, this funding definitely help as the CLTV region grows. So, the focus on quality education, international collaboration, and skills development of Erasmus Plus is definitely a partnership that will be beneficial for CLTV, but we also eager to see what the CLTV region can contribute as well to this collaboration between the EU and other regions.
Okay, great. So you can probably hear that there's opportunity for the CLTV agencies in CLTV region to utilize the Erasmus Plus program of the EU for capacity building for higher education in the region. So this is one possible option for us to explore in terms of funding and in terms of collaboration. Now, let us turn to the second round of our panel discussion today. We discussed in general how the private sector could be incentivized and promoted to engage in capacity and human resources development building in STI. We have a more specific issue we like to focus on in the second round. It's called talent mobility. So the idea behind talent mobility, it started a while ago, but when we had the conversation with Dr. Hal when for the first phase of this program, Dr. Hal mentioned that this is a critical issue, and in Thailand as well, talent mobility between the private sector and the academia and the research institutes was not well promoted. So there have been some attempts and policy measures to promote and to support talent mobility among the different agencies and sectors in the region. Now, let me first ask Dr. Poonsak regarding talent mobility program, because Dr. Poonsak, yourself, you are the person who's been working on this issue for quite a while. If you could tell us a little bit about Thailand's talent mobility program, the ongoing activities, what challenges you have, and what are the future prospects for talent mobility program for Thailand? Please, Dr. Poonsak.
Thank you for the question. First of all, I will give a bit about the beginning of the talent mobility a little bit. At the beginning, we used to have the police initiative called talent mobility in the Ministry of Science and Tech. That's a long time ago, 9 years ago. And later on, 4 years ago, we just start having the reform. So the Ministry of Science and Tech combined with the higher education institutions together in the new ministry called Ministry of Higher Education, Science, Research and Innovation. And therefore, at the first phase, we did the proposal to propose to the cabinet to get a resolution for allowing the professor of the faculty to work in the private sector legally, as the same way as working inside the university. That's the first thing that we done at the first year, and after that we initiate some policy to establish the clearing house, about 20 to 30 universities coming together and try to find out how to establish those clearing house inside university, like a entry point to like an intermediary working between the private sector and university. Another one is try to help the university to formulate the internal regulation as well, because if we have the private solution alone, we cannot allow the professor to work in the private sector basically. Therefore, some of university start to rise the regulation for allowing that professor to work on the outside university. Another one is we create some financial support. So at the beginning phase, we have the budget to subsidize to the university department that losing the professor working outside the university. The compensation come back to the department, so they can hire some other people, like a workload to other faculty, or even hire a new professor. That's the incentive that we create at the beginning phase. So after we have some reform, then the policy office, like NSVO, we move to the new policy office to the new ministry. Therefore, we stopped doing some the talent mobility program as the policy program, but we transfer that program to the permanent secretary office. And therefore, today, the Ministry of Higher Education still working on the Thailand mobility in different way after the first phase. But it's very continuing between the first phase and second phase. Therefore, I myself, I'm also working as a committee for the Permanent Secretariat Office in this manner. And the good news about today Thailand mobility is we have PMUB, and PMUB coming together in this forum as well. Therefore, we announced the ASEAN Thailand mobility this year. Actually, we try to start the ASEAN Thailand mobility since we have some meeting at Naypyidaw a long time ago. But after the reform, it's more easier for us to work on this project. And if we look forward for the future, today we can see, before looking at the future, we can come back to see what we have done and what we have to improve from the current situation, like ecosystem, research ecosystem between the university and private sector. We can see that more than thousands of people have already had the experience about the formulating the research problem from the private sector. It's very good news that we have some group of university they join together and give the new position to build up, increase more faculty number and to gain the experience in the private sector side from 3% to 15% in the next 10 years, something like that. That's very good news for university, and some of them just move toward to something like helping the university holding company in the startup company under the holding companies. And so therefore we have a lot of startup in the research ecosystem in the private sector in like the startup ecosystem. Therefore, if we take a look at the future, we believe that this Thailand mobility program is a very handy tool for the government to help the university professor and the private sector work more closely and in terms of the research and innovation. And we believe that more and more people, like we have done in the past 20 years, that we successfully increase the number of the university teaching professor into the research professor from 5 to 10. Now we have like 30% of the university that concentrate in the research academia. And therefore we believe that in the future we're going to have more university professors having a broader experience about the private sector research. I believe that for the next 10 or 20 years, we would have like a 30 or 40% of the university that have the relationship with the private sector. Not only the research, but it would be like a manpower development, or even something like the tailor-made from the university student, and continue to, like Dr. Wolachit mentioned about the trust at the beginning, that would be about the student or human resource development. And later on, they can keep the more and more collaboration in the research stuff. And therefore, in the future, we believe that international collaboration would extend more the research ecosystem, because not only inside one country could supply like infrastructure, research problem, or even more the grand challenge that we have like today. Therefore, we look forward to expand the collaboration for the international in order to exchange the people or the talent to gain more experience in the global manner. That's a brief about
thank you very much.
the situation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Punsa, because you actually just asked Dr. Wolachit on my behalf, because Dr. Wolachit is actually taking care of the, overseeing the ASEAN level, at the regional level, international level of the talent mobility program. Dr. Wolachit, please, if you could tell us a little bit about the talent mobility programs at the ASEAN level. What are the activities, what are the opportunities and the challenges that you're facing as part of this program, please?
Okay, thank you very much. So for me right now, another hat is also the expert group on talent mobility for ASEAN. So it's for Thailand, which is me, and then Dr. Sompong, which is the director of PMUB. So we are officially dedicated to help also support ASEAN talent mobility. As well as right now, the ASEAN Talent Mobility Community, the program is a flagship program, which is the priority for 2024 for COSTI endorsed. ASEAN COSTI is Committee on Science and Technology and Innovation from ASEAN. They endorsed as the program to be the priority in 2024. So there are a lot of momentum trying to get ASEAN to come together going toward that. So ASEAN Talent Mobility, I'll call ATM, right? Okay. ATM is not dispensing money, but trying to dispense talent, okay, to the demand, which means that we set up more of a structure that we have 5 units or 5 houses in the ATM community. Is the Mobility Coordination Unit, which involve the ATM expert group, which is appointed. It's a more of a high-level appointment from each country. So now we have a member who helps support and drive this program together and be the one who coordinate with the national level program. So that's the first one. The second one is talent pool. We want to accumulate the ASEAN talent to see what kind of talent are out there, and we can analyze what is needed and what is a supply in the needed which sector, like that. So we have a platform, like a kind of a database starting off right now, and we're trying to figure out ways to have a membership and also support that talent pool, so people will know how to access talent within ASEAN. And then ASEAN also the academy, which is ATM Academy, which is want to have that capacity building program and to help with the mobilize between also researcher in academic area, as well as mobilize within the industrial sector. So we're trying to figure that out. How might that be? What is the needed? And then also the research house, it's the 4th unit to try to figure out ASEAN grand challenges and using form of ASEAN research team to do that. And we have support by the dialogue partner, or have to figure out the form and mechanism to get the funding for the researchers as well. As the 4th one is the guest house, which is we open to all of our dialogue partners to work with ASEAN together to help support and nurture the talent. So I talk a lot, but it's a 5 unit. Now it's more of a structural base and figure out how to go together. And so when we have the meetings and a lot of dialogues, we notice that in each country ourselves, we have so much resources and talent out there. Each nations have their own programs, capacity, but when we present to each other, there's a lot of similarities for all of us. So if we bind together just the national programs, like the postdoctoral program or young researcher program from the Philippines and fellows, Indonesia have their own program. So if we kind of combine together, it's like we have a lot of resources and funding there to help nurture our talent. And then if we have that topic to work together as ASEAN and to mobilize with each other, and that would be fine within that mechanism system. And the dialogue partner are so willing to also help support us in the industry or the topic that we need. However, the main challenge is how to figure out the real gap, or what is the initial start in what private sector topic should we need to build the talent on. We might talk starting about the green talent due to the climate change and everything. It's a hot issue, hot topic, but what type of green talent, it's also that we have to figure out. And not only the mobility program, we have to look at the regulatory program, regulatory issues as well, because mobilized between countries, there are like visas issue and various things that we have to work out in the form of ASEAN. So that's a lot of the challenges going on that one. But the ATM group that we're trying to mobilize is trying to leverage from our national program and made some initiative as an ASEAN level, which one can become an ASEAN level, and create that communications to provide opportunity for others to help to be a part of. Because usually we talk about a lot about ASEAN program like AUN, ASEAN University Network, Simeo Write It have mobility program, but sometimes it's like it's what do you call, like bilateral or university to universities, and it's not being as enough. So
this is a regional level.
Yeah. So how can we raise that into a regional level to reach a more higher aspect? Either promoting top down or bottoms up, it depends. So now we're trying to set up a mechanism for top down. Top down is good because if we do top down, the policymaker, big bosses with budget, they would know. And then if we create a lot of publicity and see the impact that it can create both for each country or ASEAN, and also promote economy in the private sector as well. And then with that, we can get more traction and attention into there. So at the end, when there are so much opportunity, we have so much resources and talent, just need to match the talent to the demand. Yeah. And then another challenge is reaching out to the private sector in ASEAN as well. And that's one of basically.
Thank you so much, because it feels like, you know, this is a very good, but at the same time, very ambitious program, right? Because you're elevating, you know, this intermediary role of some sort of funding agency or some task group at the national level to deal with issues at the regional level, and at the same time you have to engage the private sector at the same time. So we're looking forward to hearing more about this ASEAN level talent mobility program that you're engaged in. Thank you very much. We will have a little more time later to discuss this. I have a few questions noted down. So, but before that, I'd like to ask Dr. Ahmed from Heliopolis University. The question I'd like to ask you is based on what you discussed earlier in the first round, as well as you know, our understanding about your work a little bit. You yourself, you know, was a professor at Alexandria University before, which is a really well-known public university in Egypt. And now you moved on to, you know, Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development, which is a private university, right? And then we've heard from other panelists about the importance of cultures, the difference between institutions and how to integrate them so that, you know, the private sector and the public sector and the academia can work well together. From your experience, Dr. Ahmed, you know, you worked for the public sector, now in the private sector. What's really the you know, the differences between the private sector and the public sector when it comes to you know, universities, and how these two different types of universities engage the private sector differently? What are the key differences between them, and perhaps different outcomes between, you know, these two groups of the universities? Dr. Ahmed.
Thank you, Dr. Apiwat. It is really a very important question, and I will focus my answer on the research and innovation and the technology transfer, because this is the topic of our discussion today. You know, Alexandria University, for instance, and the public universities in Egypt, they are very big, very well known, a lot of international names in terms of researchers and more. But I'll be very honest on that. The problem is you as a researcher or academic staff want to get promoted from, for instance, from assistant professor to associate professor or to a full professor. You have to do some research. And the guidelines of the promotion in the public universities, this is the constraint from my point of view. I have done a lot of research. I have published a lot of research. And the good research I have done and the good papers I have published, I didn't delivered them, presented them for my promotion because they are not eligible. This is the problem. They are, for instance, I started as in the field of marine science, marine geology, and then, you know, in your trip, in your journey, you change a little bit. So now I'm focusing on my research on the climate change issues and the sustainable development research, and so I cannot get promoted with those research. So this is one of the most important obstacles. And I found this not only in Egypt, to be honest, but also in Europe. I don't know the case in Asia, but in Europe as well, they are suffering from these guidelines or these complexities in the promotion. The second thing, that the interaction with the private sector and with the industry. Here I would like to highlight that, for instance, the public universities, they are not engaged in the private sector problems or the needs unless they have been asked to do so on the personal communication, but not on an institutional basis. In the case for Heliobas University, for instance, no, yani, this is our idea, this is our concept and vision to link between the academia and the industry and the community, because we believe that the scientific research, the main mandate of the scientific research is to solve and to give a practical solution for the industry. So, for instance, I would like to highlight two important programs we have. The first one is Abu Laish Award. Abu Laish Award, giving fund for the students and for the teaching assistants and demonstrators for their PhD and their master programs. And they have to develop a product. They have to have the end of the research is to have a product, something tangible. And the second program is transdisciplinary experience-based learning fellowship. The goals of this is a pretty new program, less than 1 year. And the goals of this program is to drive interdisciplinary research. Here we focus on having interdisciplinary between different disciplines, co-creation of innovative solutions. The solution should be applicable and scalable, impactful and profitable. This is the story. And it should address industry need or pain points. And this will guarantee the exchange of, or the transfer of knowledge and technology between the academia and the private sector. For instance, we started with some of CLTV companies, and we will scale it up next year to be for all companies in Egypt. And we started, for instance, with EZIS. EZIS is one of the companies of CLTV for herbs and for herbal teas. And we asked them for their three important problems. For instance, they said that they have problem in extending the shelf life of the products, spoiled products and disposal of the wastes, and the post-harvest quality monitoring. And then we engaged students from the Faculty of Organic Agriculture, Faculty of Business and Economics, and as well Faculty of Engineering. The students were amazing. They developed solutions for that serve circular economy, the composting, and how to extend the lifetime of the shelf life of the products. We extended that as well to the NatureTex, our textile company, and students from the Faculty of Pharmacy and Faculty of Organic Agriculture. They have some solutions for the bioactive textiles, or they call it smart textiles. So this is very, very, very interesting, and we support them financially. And this is the research. Now students with their academic supervisors, they are publishing this, and we in order to support, because not all the research, and it is not required, by the way, to be published in the highly ranked journals, Q1 journals, in Scopus and Web of Science. So we helped them, and we established a journal, Heliobas University Journal for Sustainable Development, and where we host and absorb the publications of the students. I think in this direction, we are supporting the research and innovation, and I think this is innovative solution, and this is one of the main differences between the private universities and public universities.
Thank you so much. I mean, it's really wonderful to hear the direct experience from you, because you know, in our region in Southeast Asia, even though we've talked a lot about the role of universities, we tend to focus more on the public universities. And we are actually we do have a lot of private universities in the region as well. So it would be really fascinating to learn, you know, from Egypt and perhaps from one another, how we can engage private university such as the Heliopolis University of Sustainable Development even more. And because we really hear that the proximity between the mother or the holding company and the university is so close that it facilitates the flow of knowledge and the human resources very well. Thank you very much for sharing that. We'll come back with you know, a few other questions later on. Let's move on to Dr. Panuwat, who's really from the private sector. Now we'd like to hear from you, you know, from your company's perspective. Is there an existing talent mobility program at SCG, perhaps with other universities in Thailand or beyond? If there isn't at the moment, what types of programs or activities do you believe that you know, would be beneficial for the company to implement? So my question, I guess, is twofold. Do you have a talent mobility program at the moment now at SCG? If not, what else you would like to have? Dr. Panuwat, please.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. So if we talk like more higher level on the public sector, private sector, and academia, I think what I heard so far, I think if we want to incentivize like private sector to do more on STI, I think the first thing, maybe you need to do something to convince those companies in the private sector to have one KPI about R&D spending or R&D things in their enterprise KPI. I think that's the first one. Because like once SCG have that one in our enterprise KPI, then we go in this way. Before that, we never think or like talk about this thing. So I think this is the first one. And once those companies turn to see this, turn their face to look at this point that you want them to look at the STI, the research thing, then come with the like profit, so revenue and cost, right? So first about revenue, how they can increase revenue on the research way. So they have demand, like Dr. Wajid said, like, so, and I think the ATM is a good project, and I understand that ATM is kind of, you handle the supply side. So you have collect all supply side among Asian countries. If the ATM can do something on the demand side, I'm not sure, but if you can do that, let's say in the private sector, there are like SML, right? Large, medium, and small. For large demand, it's clear, it's a big chunk. So I think you understand it easy. But for medium and small, it may be like scatter or like tiny or too small pieces. So you need to like collect them so that it's come into chunk and you can handle those demand like from big company. And then if you can like arrange activity opportunity for them, that demand can meet supply. They can like exchange the problem or the need, right? And they will have people from public sector or academia to help them. I think that's a good opportunity for private sector, because we don't know who and where that we want to find those superman, those superwoman, right? If you arrange those opportunity, and maybe one viewpoint, I think, if you arrange like how this research project or technology can apply to various industry, that one thing. But on the opposite, for this specific industry, how can many research or various technology apply to this specific industry? So I think that more understand from private sector, because they are only known from their own thought, own viewpoint. That can make them like understand easier to match those opportunity to meet the demand, the supply side, I think, and as well as the talent mobility. I think the same thing. Yes, we do have talent mobility program, exchange researcher SCG with, I think, NXPO we had do before, and other institution or like in the same like private sector together. Yes, we have. So this thing, like if we can matching demand and supply, then private sector they can increase their revenue, and I think they would like to see, they wait for those conference meeting opportunity kind of that. Yeah, like they arrange the job seeker day. So we have a position, and those like new grad, mid career, they come to the event kind of like that, like job market. But this may be like research market. And then the last one is on the cost side. So increase revenue and also reduce the cost. And private sector, we would like to invest everything, facility, hard side, tools, lab, to complete the whole thing so that we can innovate, right? Then if the public sector or public sector like government can help us, like let's say I heard that there are like 300% claim on actual expense for private sector in the R&D thing, that's very good. Or in the academia, I'm not sure, like for those professor or those researcher under academia, they need to do the things that the university or academia need them to contribute. But if the thing, the contribution that they contribute to the private sector can be counted as the score, as a performance score in the university world, in the academic world, I think those professors, they would like to contribute to private sector as well. So I think these things together kind of relax the laws and regulation, or even more like set up the law and regulation to encourage public and academia to support private sector as much as possible. I think that will support the private sector and help them. And I think the way that private sector believe that research project is the light at the end of tunnel to them, even they clearly make profit or make loss, if they go in this path, is the best answer for them and sustain. So I think start from like incentivize them, let them turn their face to this view. Consider that R&D spending is one crucial enterprise KPI, like leading, like world leading company, right? And then help them increase revenue, reduce the cost. I think this is be like the holistic approach to the private sector on STI thing.
Thank you very much. I mean, I really appreciate your comment about KPI. A lot of times, you know, we tend to think about some abstract policy objectives, but in practice, in terms of operation, especially for HR, you do need that KPI, and you need to institute a set of KPIs so that the companies can actually achieve, or set them as the target. I think it's also on the side of the supply as well, on the university and the funding agency side as well. Those KPIs are important. So thank you very much for that comment. Now, we actually asked a similar question to Jenny about how EUROSES has been involved in talent mobility program in CLTV and ASEAN region. So we have a short recording from Jenny regarding their activities of the EU. Please.
So EUROSES is a European Commission initiative. I'm currently the regional coordinator for this initiative. It supports research and mobility and theory development. And it has indeed been actively involved in talent mobility programs with ASEAN. Just some weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I was in Bangkok, Thailand, and we had the EU-ASEAN dialogue in talent mobility. And these efforts often align with the broader objectives of the EU-ASEAN talent mobility dialogue first. And one of the key initiatives where EUROSES has played a role is through the promotion and adaptation of the European Charter for Researchers, of course, localizing this in the context of ASEAN. So this charter sets out rights and responsibilities for researchers, yet also employers and funders, and it aims to ensure attractive research careers and improve employment opportunities for researchers. So we're talking here of research collaboration, support or inspiring and have to do the same to define it, whether they want to have it written, whether they want to have it when it comes to mobility, and also whether they want to charge her as well. But the most important thing here is really on not only on the policy dialogue, but the best practices exchange and promoting researchers' rights and working conditions. So Dr. Sai is with us as well, and we're together. She was actually co-moderating that session, and we're hoping for more collaborations in brain circulation and talent analysis.
Great. So we hear that there is funding opportunity and there's additional forum at the regional level to pursue this regional level talent mobility initiatives. Now, I would like to ask Dr. Hal, our last panelist of the session, now that you have listened to all these wonderful exchanges and sharing from our other panelists, from Thailand at the ASEAN level, from Egypt. In your opinion, what opportunities and challenges might arise when trying to implement talent mobility programs, specifically within Cambodia? Dr. Hao.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dr. Ampiwat. I think the challenge in Cambodia is this regional platform the guiding document as well as supporting from dialogue partners and university perspective. I think the challenges in Cambodia, what I can say is what are the regulatory framework that we take, and the government have to solve this. What are the regulatory legal framework to be in place, ensuring that, let's say, the talent locally mobilized and ensuring that the talents are moving legally and happily cross border. I think these are the legal framework that immediately from government side must be in place. And if we talk about the triple helix model, the matchmaking from academy also, let's say we want a particular researcher or scientist or skilled labor, for instance, to be mobilized from one country to another. We have to have the capability to do that also. And another one is from private sectors. Private sector ready to be in the platform or not? Because private sectors must see this is an opportunity, but private sector see the profit also, and competition, I think, must be there also. I think in principle it's like that. I think it's not only in Cambodia. So these are my view on the challenges that may arise once the initiatives at ASEAN levels, at dialogue partner level to support this. For your information, thank you.
I have a quick question, Dr. Hao. Would you see the differences between large domestic companies versus multinational companies if you like to try to implement talent mobility programs in Cambodia? Domestic, international, does it matter?
I think it should not be a matter as long as we match up the right private sector in. But what private sector, I recently discussed with private sector also about this issue, and they need a strong support from government also. And government, like what again I said again, it's how government are ready in terms of legal framework to support. Let's say a talent is mobilized from one place to another place. What are the law or regulatory framework ensuring this is incentivized, this is legal, this is unknown, mutual benefits from both sides. And private sector immediately asked me what are the government intervention ensuring a trust between these two private sector. Yes.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Hao. So we've finished 2 rounds of discussion already. There are a few keywords that I really would like to use actually as part of our development of the workbook for this project. One is certainly what most of the panelists have mentioned, which is really the trust between the public sector, the academia, as well as the private sector. Without that trust and confidence among one another, it would be very difficult to form some good partnerships to build something, to build the capability and human resources in STI. Another one that I heard a lot is also the issues of deregulation and reforming, adjusting the legal and institutional framework that would allow for flexibility for the talent and the knowledge to move more freely in one country and across different sectors, as well as at the regional level. Another one is the important roles of intermediaries, and intermediaries are not just funding agencies like PMUB, but also industry associations and other associations of the private sector at all levels to work as the catalyst and to bind and create bond among different actors that have been operating in silos before. So these are, at least the 3 key points that I got out of this conversation. It also reminds me of the conversation we had earlier this week on Tuesday about startups. And one of the speakers back then was talking about how we should change the mindset when we build the ecosystem of STI in our region. He said we should move beyond this sense of competition only, cutthroat competition, pulling one resource from the other because we have limited resources. So we should shift from pure competition to more partnerships. Even though we still compete, we should find ways to partner with one another so that we can build the ecosystem together. So we have about 10 minutes left for open discussion. I would like to open the floor, both to the panelists, but also the participants. If you have any questions, please either raise your hand or if you're not comfortable to speak, you can write down your questions in the chat box. Please, let's open the discussion. Anybody else would like to ask questions to the panelists, perhaps?
Dr. Ampiwat, thank you very much. We have discussed a lot on talent mobility, and yes, the representative from European Union have the answer, of course, but can you or our panelists here share what are the experiences in Europe on talent mobility? I think would be an insight for, enlighten some thought for us also if we get some idea on this. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's a great question because, the European Union, I mean, they have, much bigger union, right? So there's quite a lot of flows between the human resources in different sectors already. Dr. Warajit, do you have any insights on how the European Union has done it?
In the ATM workshop, we have a lot of best practice sharing from the EU as well. They have a really What I say, they have a very good platform and program to support all level of researcher, from young researcher to senior researcher. And then in the mobility, not only they have a supporting system and to help, like if the researcher mobilize between country to country, they have that nurturing system as well. When they arrive to the other country, and also European Union have a career path program for the researcher. When you mobilize, what kind of career path it happens. So the lesson learned that we have from them is that the whole ecosystem to support brain circulation have been set up over the past like 20 years, not just to mobilize, but it's like preparing for jobs, preparing for the regulations. When they discuss with us for the ATM charter, because they have the EU charter for the researcher, everything is all been set and it's like kind of regulated. There's like law and regulation on there, but it's harder for ASEAN to do it because we don't have one government. We have like 10 plus government. So that is one of the reason. Another one that I can share is that it's like what PMUB is doing under the European Research Council program. The ERC program, where we send our researcher over to the ERC funded principal investigators, the PI, where our researcher can go and be embedded with their research and to learn about how EU fund is being run, the project is being run as well as to make that kind of connection. And then with that, the ERC program is extended to, well, for ASEAN is Singapore, the second one is Thailand and Japan and the US, so many for us to be sending over. What I see is mainly for us going there, but the one coming inbound to our countries is not so much. If we can develop in that area, that would be great for inbound as well, to be completely mobilized. Yeah.
Thank you very much for that answer. I think one key point is exactly that, right? About the European Union has a government at the continental or regional level, while ASEAN doesn't have. So we have to figure out different mechanisms to build this kind of regional level initiative. Dr. Ahmed, you have your hands up.
Yes, I would like to add to my co-panelists what my co-panelists have mentioned regarding the EU. I would like to share that the EU is supporting the mobility and the talent mobility in for on the institutional level and as well for the individual level. For instance, referring to the Erasmus Plus program that have been mentioned by our co-panelists, they have 3 key actions. The key action one is for mobility of individuals. I mean, ongoing and incoming students and staff from the universities, from the institutions, not only universities, and outgoing as well. There is a key action 3 in this Erasmus Plus, supporting the youth and the sports and the NGOs, which is very important and could be very beneficial as well. In addition to the big one, which is K Action 2, which is supporting the capacity building in the field of higher education, but it is on the institutional level. In addition, there is a program which is Marie Curie, where it gives an opportunity to the excellent researchers to go to Europe to do their to implement their ideas and to do their research in the elite European institutes. Finally, the Horizon Europe program, which is very, very, very vast, which is supporting the excellence in research all over the world, and I think a lot of opportunities there in this program. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And those are really good information for us to use as benchmarks and, maybe practices to consider. Any other questions from the panelists or participants in the room? Please, if you have anything, you can just raise your hand or type down your question. As we wait for people to ask question, I have a personal sort of curious question about Egypt, actually, Dr. Ahmed. You heard us, in our ASEAN and CLTV region, that we were trying to work together at the regional level. Is there anything at the sort of regional level revolving around the Middle East or Egypt and neighboring countries that you could perhaps share with us?
Unfortunately, this is what I was thinking about it. We at CECAM and Heliopolis University, we have, because I'm responsible for the international relations, I had an exercise last week counting the number of the organizations and the countries. And unfortunately, I didn't find a lot of cooperation with I would not say Asia, because we have a lot with Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and because we have many programs in the Mediterranean. So they are participating. We are participating together on the regional level, the Mediterranean, not African-Asian partnership. We have a running call between supporting the bilateral cooperation between Egypt and China, which is 10 years ago, started, and it is working very well. But unfortunately, no, even Erasmus is supporting the partnership between Europe and Africa, Europe and Asia, not between, for instance, we cannot make a consortium of the universities or institutions between Europe, Asia, Africa. No, this is the problem. So you are right. You think in the right way. In my point of view, we need to have a mechanism for supporting this, or at least as far as I know, I don't know a program or something, connecting this.
Yeah, as you know, we were really fortunate to have you in the room today, because then, because our program is called South-South collaboration. I mean, South for us at the moment is still limited to, our Southeast Asian region, basically. But then, we can really learn a lot from other countries, developing countries, emerging economies in different parts of the world. And I really appreciate the story of the CECAM and Heliopolis University there. So we have a question in the chat. Let me read the chat from Partnerit. When we talk about talent mobility, do you foresee the brain drain of the increasing disparities in knowledge and expertise issue in the region? What are the win-win solutions? How to turn from brain drain to brain gain? I mean, that's a great question, right? Because when talent can move freely, they tend to move one way, right? Like, for example, I just happen to be in Italy at the moment, and we're talking with a lot of universities in the US. They say what happens a lot is that there's brain drain from the best people move from developing countries to Europe and to America, and they tend not to go back. So Partnerit's question is absolutely valid. I would like to ask Dr. Poonsak, actually, in terms of mobility. I think the disparity, you can think of two ways. One way is the brain drain from the public sector totally to the private sector. We think of talent mobility as a sort of circular motion, right? What if the professor just quit the university? So that's one. The second one would be at the regional level. What if the best researchers from Cambodia move to Vietnam, move to Thailand, and they don't go back to their home countries? Do you see that happening? And what can we do? Dr. Poonsak, please.
Okay, it's a very challenging question. Anyway, from the past 9 years, I never seen any professor that quit from university to the private sector at all. But instead, before the talent mobility program, we've seen some professors quit from university and work in the private sector, a big firm. But anyway, after for a while, that former professor, he's a very important person who can engage university very well with the private sector for doing the research, even the deeper expanding the boundary between the research lab, research program from university to the private sector, and that's one that I've seen. Another one is mobilizing between the developing country to another one. Myself, I believe that because the previous policy we try to promote the current university professor to the private sector. So if the professor, they have the in Asia we have the very long-term career. So basically the professor not move to the private sector or even to others a lot, but just a few of them. But it's very important that the first 5 years of the professor career is very important for developing the experience in terms of the private sector or the challenge problem from the private sector is very important to the professor career to get success in the final at the end of the career. We've seen some environment is very useful for the university professor to expand the network. I've seen the FDI, the foreign direct investment one company that they even open the forum, the academia forum inside the private sector. It's very in place for the private sector to have the basic research from the university professor coming from different university and discussing about the future challenge for the the deep technology for not even working on the current technology inside the company at all. But the company they told us that the idea from those professors that can help the worker, the engineers to understand even more deep and deeper understanding about tackle the problems inside the company. So this is the very good ecosystem for the university to learn more and more, but it's still limited. I believe for the next 10 years we will see even more and more ecosystem, the better ecosystem like this. And another thing is not one country would have some only the limited resource. For example, in university we have the limited resource for investing the high technology instrument and tools all the time. Therefore, it's very good benefit for the university or even for the let's say Thailand. We can get the benefit from the engagement with the European country or even some other places that have it. The very good ecosystem than our current ecosystem. In this way, I believe that let's say that Vietnam, Cambodia, or even some other country that having the same economic developing situation, I believe that if we have some collaboration, we can do more. The grand challenge project like sustainability and global challenge like AI technology. Then when they come back to their own country, they can have wider, bigger perspective of the setting up the research project or research program to their own country. I believe this way we can develop the learning ecosystem like a lifelong learning in the global perspective. Good for everybody. Right? That's what I think.
Thank you. Yeah, no, actually, that's a really great great perspective there, because it feels like talent mobility programs are really not creating or leading to the brain drain. If anything, it helps keep the brain within the the public sector as well as in the country. All right, so we're running out of time. So I would like to ask our panelists to sort of wrap up and give your perspective. One quick last message that you like to give to policymakers in the region or anything. If I may ask Dr. Poonsak again, what's your one short message when it comes to human resources development for STI. Dr. Punsap, please.
For the short message, I will go through the. I believe that the research or innovation ecosystem in different countries will have the different situation, and therefore in the future, in the longer term, anyhow and anyway that people in this global in our world should have some idea about the other countries, because the world is already connected, and people that already move around, like COVID-19, you can see that it spread very quickly.
True.
And in our world is already start connected. Therefore, we cannot think about only our own area of our own university or our own ecosystem, but we need to think the global idea, or even the global doing like a global citizen. Therefore, if we try to help the university professor and the private sector in together, we can develop the learning ecosystem in to go to the final stage of the development. Therefore,
Thank you.
if we think about the BCG, circular economy, and sustainability, green innovation, that would help our global perspective, and any country will. I believe that would be a win-win situation like that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. Please, any last message?
The last message is my background photo, the circles of SEICM, which refers to that everything is connected. Public sector, private sector, industry, and academia. So this is the way for the system change. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Warajit, please.
For my side, I'd like to promote an event to match the demand and the supply together. That question was raised a minute ago from SGG. So for the ASEAN Talent Mobility, we are going to have a big event called ASEAN Talent Mobility Connect on the 26th to 29th of February. And then we want to promote all the various programs to come together regarding the supply, and we're also going to reach out to the demand. And so we're trying to have that, figure out how to connect and meet, because usually we have a lot of meetings, a lot of talks, a lot of discussion, but what is really working is needed. Seems like we can't wait for a big funding from the government or changes in the regulations, because that is a much longer way. But if we can just match supply and demand using a national program, institutional program, just to meet each other and start with that first, and then I think the policy and several incentive will come once they see our challenges and our success as well. So just to promote, we will send you information on ATM Connect in February. So see you then.
Thank you. Thank you. Action speaks louder than words. Thank you very much. Dr. Panuwat, please.
Yeah, so I think as we know, demand, supply, mechanism will solve everything, right? So it will maximize, minimize, and optimize all related factors. So I think if you can enlarge it from ASEAN TM to world TM, it will be really good. Yeah, thanks.
That's very ambitious, but at the same time aspirational. Thank you very much. Dr. Hal, your last words, please.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Ampiwat, and thank all panelists. I think it's a must to have talent mobility framework or mechanism, a favorable mechanism for regional level and local levels. The only word that I would like to emphasize is, talents. We have to be more strategized in terms of what kind of skill, what kind of knowledge, what kind of talents that we have to, go into priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cannot just say broadly talent. These are my message shortly. Thank you.
Thank you. Be more specific. All right. Thank you so much, all panelists and the participants. I really appreciate all the presentations, the comments, suggestions that you have. We will incorporate them in the workbook that our team are developing. Thank you so much for your time today. Raphael, please.
Thank you, Apiwad, and thank you, everyone. I mean, at this point, what is to say? I think appreciate so much the panelists. Your insight was such a fruitful conversation. And just so you know, to finalize it, this is an ongoing process that ESCAP is providing as advisory service. So for some government officials, already reached out for a webinar, for a workshop we organized in December, and a few more webinars to come in January, potentially exploring innovation networks and this regional innovation networks. As we talk, this need for collaboration, so something we'd like to explore. But for that, so thank you very much all for joining it. Please fill the feedback form in the chat. That's always useful for us. And in the meantime, thank you very much. And whatever, anything else, please feel free to reach out to us. And I'm happy to make these connections with everyone here in this room. And thank you all, and have a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.